although it's not really surprising that it's reflected in a Squirrel Hill partnership between Chomsky and a buddy from India. The heaped up talking sideways question that comes to me comes from that direction, is what I'm saying. It's ironic that it would come from Chomsky. Not because I don't think he doesn't know what he's doing, but because he was one of the people who was singled out as being too honest about the Vietnam War by the mainstream. He was the one who was repudiated from all future talks with Buckley. He was the one who admitted that Foucault was immoral. Despite this, I'm being dragged before the Inquisition with the usual background noises that I was after the smorgasbord, I was licky chops myself, hunting a virgin, trying to break contact with the victims is a big one. Was I or was I not putting myself at risk, or was I after pleasure despite the risk? The sort of Howard Cosell interviews that Woody Allen puts up in his theater. And Bill Kaplan interviewing the Tryst. Waiting for the tears to flow from the neuroplasm. I said to Kaplan, I'm under hypnosis. He said, I was under hypnosis. He said, you still are. That was before they popped the neuroplasm. But despite all the evidence for meditation, planned interrogation, parochial con jobs, and laughing stock routines, you still end up with Ringo around your collar. Well, Seattle wanted an ultimatum. They presented from Zappa, you lost John Lennon, so you die. You die, you die, you eat apple pies, what Paul Ranko used to say. Paul runs the company. So, truth or consequences is what Cohen used to say. And of course, West was the name in the script. Cornell West was at a theological seminar. Cornell West, the logic of the battalion poisoned me in the mouth. And they say it wasn't before COVID-19. It was after, as part of the purification ritual. You tried to break contact with the victims. You don't sufficiently emphasize. In other words, the minstrels of Sobibor didn't see you tap your foot on the way to the gas chamber. They heard you sing, oh, I'm glad I'm not an Oscar Mayer wiener. No. I want shocking on lip service. Blood oath and death vow. Oh, they just heard a protocol. And they worked with Palm Beach and the Green Party and Cornell West and what's called biological linkage. Go, give it up for the cocktail clip, give it up. That was your priority. My priority was getting, you can read my articles, long articles, about Harper Times, Pitt News, getting help and information to victims, playing into a trap to get information. Now, why did you continue to make love to Rosa? There were still some mysteries to solve, and I still had faith in King Crimson, and I still believed in normal behavior. So I want the axe to fall on their commitment to psychological mayhem, the brilliance of Andy. How do you prevent us from creating a whisper campaign that you're trying to get away with your skin, queerball? And expect me to dignify it. Expect me to dignify a partnership with the people who did it. Expect me to dignify murdering Susan Kennedy in the name of Black Lives Matters. Well, the extreme Asian community avenges Vietnam. You expect me to dignify a post office that follows my letter and delivers it with murder. Expect me to dignify the stupid and retarded idea that that had something to do with Russia. There's a million things today to dignify, but it comes down to I want to wipe my booger on your face. And it's like a primal need of Cornel West or something. And you know, they didn't. Let's talk about instant replays. COVID, it'll pile over. And then all this stuff happened, right? Star Trek comes to the rescue. Warp speed. George Takei's coming. Don't you worry. Here comes the Enterprise. Spike Goldie to the rescue. Spike Goldie to the rescue. Here comes old Spike Lee, go! Well, they was waving like this here, spooked the queers into reacting, you know, like horses running to the burning barn. And there was an element of that in my suicidal conduct. But one thing that's really important is double fantasy is an allusion to double suicide, which is Japanese tradition. So the answer is, you know, they stick heme and they blow COVID at you because they want biological linkage, right? It's like a military attack from Africa. You're blowing fossil fuels on us, so our man Donald Trump gonna blow COVID-19. It's retarded. Can't you see how? Then they say, well, your abstinence for 30 years and your castration is justified because the warriors of Africa have been enculturated with these stupid questions that allow them to duck the fact that they didn't warn, allow them to duck that they're allied with the people who did it, allow them to duck that black men have spoken forcefully and directly to me. One of them is named Duvall, saying he supports the attack. And then they say you didn't do lips, you didn't cry, you didn't weep after we raped your girlfriend to sufficiency. You must secretly in your heart want us to suffer. It's completely ridiculous. I was trying to get help, dignity, and warning. I was going to get on a bus. People have seen me in homeless condition. I zip around the country. I'm up in Maine, I'm out in Iowa, I'm out here in Seattle, I'm zipping around the country. I was going to jump a bus and go to San Francisco and say, hold it, you guys got to protect yourselves. And I'm getting these strange letters from the mastermind, Peter Gabriel saying things like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And you expect me to say, oh, how do for one thing, self-contagion isn't my precinct. Homosexual behavior isn't my precinct. Mr. Buttigieg, I have nothing against your marriage. I mean, I'm not going to dignify an answer to a question like, do I believe two dudes have a right to bomb it together? I'm not going to dignify it. It's none of my business. Now, I was in a sociology class, and the kid said, what business is somebody else? Will I do my personal behavior? I'll tell you something. This I know. It may not be somebody else's business, but as you can know for a fact by looking at what Nicky Chops did to me, if somebody decides to make it their business, you have a problem. Now, you think pernicious customs, Margaret Mead concepts, and civil dignities are difficult to judge. Try navigating the right to privacy of someone else when they are in danger, when they want their privacy anyway. It's a very complicated tumbler system there. Okay. On top of this, they were lying about an impacted neuroplasm. They were lying about torturing me. They were laughing about having it all set up. I mean, that's the one thing I really, really learned about the Beatles. It's through the whole nightmare, the whole tragedy, Ukraine, COVID, they were laughing through the whole thing. Okay, that's the mentality of Roger Waters. They make a big stink about when something happens to them and say it's your fault. It's the fault of a completely hapless person who had nothing to do with it, because they are dehumanizing people as a strategy of psychology. You are not you, you are the subset of the walrus or something. And they want people to be flying into desire to immolate themselves, the way Foucault did, the way Strub did, the way the Buddhists who burned themselves in Saigon did, which was a symbol. They had a Buddhist on the cover of 119, which was the same length of time that Shall We Dance ran, which of course was repeated by Richard. So these people think they have tapped into what they call the Antarctic harmony, Robert Anson Wilson. And what they're asking isn't, do you care about us? Which of course I do. It's not my precinct. I'm not a nurse, I'm a poet. I'm also a person who has detected some things and put them in. I went back to school so there would be legitimacy to my request for peer review. But of course, I do care about them. I wouldn't have put so much work into it. I wouldn't have risked my life to it. I wouldn't be talking to them now if I didn't care about them. But the question isn't, do I care about them? The question is, do you kowtow to our anarchic harmony, which is the only thing that Seattle brilliance can conceptualize. They can't check their premises. They still can't accept that I was used for a King Crimson experiment. It makes them laugh. They deny it, they lie about it, they subvert the evidence, they refuse to report it, they refuse to investigate it because they would rather dance to the puppet strings of Penis Gabriel and Donald Trump. That's the bottom line. They call themselves the Green Party, they call themselves liberals, they call themselves student Chomsky, they call themselves whatever they want. They are licky chops, berserkers, ripper hatters, who don't like seeing people get away from or be warned about deadly danger to themselves. Now, the way the Carl brothers monger this is that the deadly danger to yourself is to your soul. If you look at Carell, I grew up on the street with Carl and Sherelle, and I know now that Wagner Group was out here in Tacoma and knew about Dee Dee in the Texas School Book. Oswald was in Russia and Texas. So we know what the pit and the pendulum swings pretend. Carell says if you give up your life for Mother Russia, you will be cleansed of your sins. Well, that's not very far from the Chorus thinking. It is better for the world to be destroyed than to become a den of thieves. It is better for you to die of AIDS than to refuse to repent your sins. And what is the sin? The sin is being a victim of Michael Reagan's favorite scenes humor. No, that's not sympathy for the gay people. What do you mean it's not sympathy for the gay people? I gave you Michael Reagan's favorite scenes humor. It's not sympathy for the gay people. Okay. What was my sin again? Your sin was being subjected to successive degradations of the X motive, and then not saying give it up for the telltale clip, give it up, not cheering the sacrificial, the Asian to the black man or something. It doesn't make the sense that UW dialectical and these administrative brutes indecently pilfer mine archives. They took something from the signature from Uncle Bob Santos. You wouldn't find one in a million people who valued it as much as I did. And they leave me these notes. I think you understand me. What did they paint that painting? No, I painted that painting. They have no concept of dignity, yet they pilfer from museums and stockpile abundance. And they write letters saying things like, to the winners go the spoils. And then they say, I lack empathy. It doesn't make any sense. They've had death row signifiers for my family since Shannon Harps was Ripper. What did Shannon Harps do? She was in the CO Club. And yet the mechanism is so Dan Savage's computer, his crystal beanie, is so dogmatized against peer reviewers, second thoughts, that to them, someone who was a sister to them, who was helping them, there's nothing in the world that shows that Shannon Harps lacked empathy for the gay community. Yet they go and rip her. Oh, it was a little penny. She symbolized the sacred magic penny of the man who runs the company. Paul runs the company. It's ludicrous. And it's like, I've repeated this many times. I don't own any weapons. I don't have an in for gay people. It's obscene. It's absurd. You're asking a stupid question. You should ask that question maybe yourself. You have some sort of Freudian mission to discredit the gay community, Booty Gag. I have no idea why. Because you're coming after somebody who is innocent as charged. It's just like framing me for armed robbery. It's a Hitlerian, stupid waste of time. And then saying, oh, well, Cornell still has a booger he wants to rub on your face. That comes first.